Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this WRASAP Network quarterly meeting. Again, our program is the Western Regional Agricultural Stress Assistance Program, and we're dedicated to assist farmers and farm workers to reduce farm stress. Our meeting for today will have Clinton Wilson as the program director of AgWell as our main presenter, and he's going to be presenting on building community collaborations and trust. And I will talk a little bit more about our presenter in a little bit. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Esmeralda Mandujano, and I work for the California Agribility Program. Our role in the California Agribility Program is to host these WRASAP meetings quarterly so that we have a space to connect with colleagues that are doing similar work. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to but first, I want to give you a little bit of background on WRASAP. So WRASAP was originally started by USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture funding. It was funded through the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network grant, which establishes regional networks that connect agricultural producers. This includes farmers, ranchers, farm workers, and other agricultural related occupations, including things such as packing, with resources to assist them in times of stress. There are 4 regional programs across the United States. In the West, we have 13 states and 4 territories. If you like more information about the other 4 regional programs, we do have additional information about these programs at our webpage at farmstress.us. Like I said, our area covers 13 states and 4 territories that you can see in this image. And throughout that area, we have a lot of collaborators doing different projects because we understand that the work that we do can vary depending on the crop, depending on the state, depending on the season, and the specific workers and farmers. Other efforts that are part of the Western Regional Agricultural Stress Assistance Program include a clearinghouse. The goal there was to build a comprehensive searchable database to facilitate easier navigation of resources. With time, the two plus years that we've been working on this project, we've been really incrementing the amount of resources available on there. You can search them by state, you can search them by the different kind of service, and even we have a lot of options on there for Spanish-based resources. Another resource that we have is the Small Grants Program. Each quarter we review grant applications to really incorporate new programs, seed programs that would address farmer stress across the region of the 13 states and 4 territories. We've had some great applications, and also from the Small Grants programs, we've been able to see some staff from different universities attend trainings at Agribility regional conferences and also attending other professional development opportunities. We've also extended the call staff of Farm Aid. Farm Aid is a program that was initially based in the East, but through the WRASAP program, what we did is that we extended the existing hotline operation hours and training for hotline staff to better support agricultural populations. We'll hear a little bit more about this later on today in part of the announcements. And lastly, the part that I really focus on is on the network. We really try to have collaboration and expansion of the network to ensure culturally humble community outreach across the region, and this includes doing networking in all of the states that are in our region, which include Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, and of course the 4 territories. So the goal of the network meetings for which we are here today is to bring stakeholders together and for stakeholders to be able to build connections and collaborations to assist agricultural producers in times of stress. I've seen that in some of the in-person things that we've been able to do, people kind of tell each other, oh, I remember seeing you at this networking meeting. So I think we are fulfilling our goal on there. Another goal of the networking meeting is to improve behavioral health awareness, literacy, and outcomes for agricultural producers, their families, and our communities. And I think with time, we are seeing that people are becoming more receptive in rural areas to talk about behavioral mental health. Also, it's a space for collaborators to present their efforts and offer opportunities to pose questions and bring experiences to the table. And this meeting is open to the public. External partners, farmers, farm workers are all welcome to attend. So I like to start off this meeting because it is a network meeting with an icebreaker. We're gonna be broken up into rooms, and we would like for you to share your name, your role in your organization, what organization you are with, what is your favorite, and then share with the group what is your favorite thing about the holiday season or the winter season. And we know that the holiday seasons tend to be known as busy times where people are sometimes more stressed, often really close to family. So how do you practice mindfulness or wellness during this busy season? So we're going to be broken up into rooms now, and we'll have a quick conversation. We'll be back to the main room in about 5 minutes. It looks like all of us are back from our Zoom breakout rooms. So I hope you got to meet some wonderful people. I know that every time I participate in these, I get to meet somebody new and somebody that I'm always like, oh, I want to get to know that person a little bit more. But in the spirit of trying to get to know our presenters, since our presentation is up next, I'm going to pick on Clinton and ask him what is his favorite thing about the holiday or winter season, and how do you practice mindfulness wellness?
Yeah, so I said that my favorite thing was just the extended time without a lot of stress and schedule with my kids. They're all in school still, and so the evenings are usually pretty full, and so over the holidays it seems to be a little bit different. And I appreciate that, and the way that I take care of myself is I wake up before everybody else in my house and have coffee with my dogs while it's still dark, try to have a fireplace, and it keeps me grounded each morning so that I'm a little bit better person to be with for the rest of my family, particularly in the holidays when everything's going on.
I was just imagining that, like being by the fireplace with my dog, and even just hearing you saying that, it felt warm, and I'm like, oh, I should do that same thing too. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about this group. We get to learn some great tips. Did you learn any new tips or things that you're like, oh, I should try that from your group? Yes. Okay. So does anybody else want to share? You know, people get shy sometimes. Okay, if we don't have any shares, we're gonna move on to our next part here. We're gonna move on to our main presentation, which is going to be from Clinton, where you already got to know him a little bit through figuring out what he likes to do for mindfulness during this holiday season. So Clinton Wilson is a native of rural Texas who has always had a great appreciation for people working in agriculture. After receiving his MA in counseling psychology, Clinton spent most of his career working for social service nonprofits in the Pacific Northwest. He and his family relocated to Fort Collins, Colorado in 2017, where he supported local farmers and ranchers through his role as executive director of Poudre Valley Community Farms, a farmland cooperative assisting with land access for local producers. In December of 2021, Clinton took the position of program director at AgWell, a project of the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union that supports the well-being of farmers, ranchers, ag workers, and their families in Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Clinton is passionate about creating a more connected, community-focused, collaborative, and a robust support system for agricultural community in the Rocky Mountain region and beyond. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Clinton.
Thanks, Esme. I will see if I can stretch my technology skills to figure out how to share a screen that you can see and works so that I can still see you all. I was talking with my wife a little bit earlier about I haven't done many online presentations, but the ones that I've done, one of my biggest challenges has been I really value face-to-face and being in person with people. And I'm right now humbled by the amount of people and the faces that I can see on the screen that I know. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. I also have it so that I think I can see you guys a little bit more, but I've got my slideshow up top. So forgive me if I'm looking in two places. I don't usually use two screens. This first screen, I just wanted to acknowledge, I do work for Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. We serve farmers and ranchers and agriculture workers in the Rocky Mountain region, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico. AgWell is the name of the program that I was hired to lead. We work closely with WRASAP. Esme talked quite a bit of WRASAP and Farsan earlier. Two of the organizations that we collaborate with here in Colorado that you guys will hear from a little bit in just a minute is the Colorado Agribility Project and the Coffee Break Project. Those have been two organizations that have really been inspirational for me, not only the people, but the programs that they're running. And with that, we'll see if, did that advance us? So when I was in graduate school, I got captured by this idea of synergy. And it has really been something that has taught me, it's really comforted me when I'm feeling alone or when I feel like I don't have a clue what I'm doing by myself. Just this idea that I bring one part and other people bring another part, and together we form something different. So the definition of synergy says the interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, substances, or agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. So this can look a lot of different ways. It's kind of like the human body with all the different parts. And when you put them all together, we have this living animated body that's moving. The image that came to me, I had a chance to come up to Washington State this past October for the Pizza for Producers program that Don, the person who's leading us all in the WRASAP network, put together, and it was really fantastic. And so the image that came to me was the image of a pizza. And I started thinking about the way that we all represent different parts of this pizza. And I used WRASAP as an example, but it's really this network of people. Some of us are involved with WRASAP, some of us aren't. But some of us are the cheese, the tomatoes, the mushrooms, the crust, the whatever. And by ourselves, we can be really tasty and delicious. But, like we learned at this Pizza for Producers when we all were there together, that we put it in one pizza organization of crust, sauce, cheese, toppings, and we put it in the oven, and it becomes this like whole different thing, this pizza pie. And so the image that I was kind of thinking as I was thinking about synergy and what to share was, how can we share programming and ideas? And that's what Esme and her team have really been doing with these networking meetings to support the whole pizza of this network. And then when we are doing our own thing with our different organizations and by ourselves, we're not just giving them the pepperoni that we have or the mushrooms that we have, but we're able to serve them a piece of this delicious pizza pie that has everybody's influence. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw distance network. I'm still learning and I'm still building connections. And I saw this cartoon and it really highlighted something that for me has probably been my biggest learning this year. And it's that effectiveness really comes from building and engaging trust with others. And trust falls are one way that we can build trust. And obviously, this one didn't work out so good for this guy. But the thing that I have learned has really been that time is the greatest thing that helps us build trust. And I've been blessed to get to make some relationships and works with some fantastic people over the past year that have taught me a lot. I have been able to interact with some tremendous farmers and ranchers and ag workers that have been very gracious with me because I'm not a seasoned person from agriculture. I've been around it for the past 3 or 4 years, but I'm still learning, and their graciousness with teaching me and helping me understand what they're going through has been tremendous. One of those people that has really been influential in helping me not only see agriculture and the agriculture climate here in Colorado, but also the importance of that trust takes time to build, is JC Carica, and he is the CEO of the Southeast Health Group here in Colorado, and he started a program called the Coffee Break Project. And Hannah, I saw you on this call as well. You're not on my screen anymore, but Hannah works with JC, and together they have created this really fantastic program that I'm going to let JC talk a little bit more about, because everything that I've seen them do with that program has been really inspiring, and it really speaks to this special ingredient of trust. So JC, I'll give it to you now, and there's your coffee break slide.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Clinton. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, glad Hannah's on the screen as well, and I'm glad that Chad's going to join us today with his contributions in Colorado, because I think the four of us are doing some pretty important work collaboratively, and that's the important piece. I have to preface with, for the past 15 years, I've been having coffee with almost the same group of people at a C-store in Swink, Colorado, which is 600 people. And those that attend, or there's about 20 of us, and at any given day you can count on 10 or 12 to show up, and they range from ages of 40 to 85 years old. And I'll circle back to why that's important in a second. But in 2018, we had 4 suicides, all tied to the agriculture community in a county of only 2,500 people. Well, when you count suicides typically per 100,000, and you have 4 in 2,500, you know you have a significant problem. So in 2018, we started an ag advisory committee, because all 4 of those people were tied to the ag culture. And what we realized is that we need to create a product to address suicide prevention that didn't look like a mental health center model, that we're still facing stigma of what it looks like to park your truck, your flatbed, whatever it may be, in the parking lot of a mental health center. And community mental health centers' missions are more focused on being a safety net around crisis and treatment and stabilization. Our expertise, at least in Colorado, is typically not prevention or early intervention. And so, facing a workforce shortage, we were also trying to figure out, how do we get in this market and get ahead of this problem and try to find early ways to identify people in distress. And the irony is, we had the product the whole time and we didn't realize it. It was having coffee. It was literally a coffee break. Everywhere you go, there's coffee. There's coffee at the churches. There's coffee at the convenience stores. There's coffee in your offices. We have coffee nooks. We have coffee bars. We even build facilities around small kitchenettes with Keurigs, right? So the solution was not more therapists. It was not more advertising. It was not a mental health center going out there and saying, if you need us, we're here. It was taking advantage of people that were already meeting in groups where they felt comfortable and they were checking on themselves and sharing their experiences. So what we did is we tried to figure out way to partner with that idea and say, okay, you guys are all the gatekeepers. Let's train you on how to have important conversations with people that may be showing distress. And maybe just your relationship in itself can redirect a person from getting to a place of crisis. So we found this product from the University of Colorado called Comet, Changing Our Mental Emotional Trajectory. And it's a 2-hour training that is very innate. It's conversational. It's normal day-to-day language that you would use in conversations that's not suspect or clinical, to just check on people. And what I find is we do it all the time. Just this week, one of my coffee buddies in Swink called me up and said, hey, I've got a ranch hand that's not doing well. How can you help me come up with some strategies to have this conversation about them seeking treatment? And we did. And then next thing you know, they drove them to the mental health center and got them enrolled. But it's about that connectivity, trusting people around the table, trusting that they're there to provide something in the best interest of the consumer or the person in need. Some of the other things we focus on in the gun shop, well, you have to think of the Coffee Break Project as two-pronged. One is it's a place. So we literally have a coffee shop or an office in Rocky Ford, Colorado, right on Highway 50 and Main Street. And that's what Hannah runs full time. And people will stop in there Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and just check in with her. The majority of them are not people in service or even in need of professional service, but they are people that are in need of connecting to someone or feeling or trying to find a way to feel connected in their communities again. This could be a farmer that lives 45 minutes out of town. This could be a person that's homeless. And I may walk in there on Wednesday at 8 in the morning, and we may have somebody at risk of homelessness. We may have a veteran. We may have a farmer rancher. We may have a business owner. We're all sitting around the table. And while we all have very different backgrounds and desires, what we all have in common is the need to connect, the need to be social. And it's been fascinating because we've seen a handful of people in the last 6 months in Rocky Ford that did not feel part of their community, now starting to develop these networks that they once lost. And so it really is a place where people can connect. The other thing about the Coffee Break Project, and I won't go on much longer, Colin, I promise, is that it's also a product. So we go around and we've trained in North Dakota, Nebraska. We're headed up to Washington in January. And we train Comet, which is the 2-hour conversation starter product. But we also talk about red flag legislation and gun safety and what that means when you bring up red flag in the farm, ranch, and ag communities. It's a very sensitive conversation. But you cannot talk about suicide prevention if you can't talk about gun safety. You have to be really careful you don't talk about gun control, because that can really turn people off in the meeting. But when 56% of suicides are completed by firearm, it's hard not to talk about gun safety. So we have a safe in Southeast Colorado at one of our gun shops where people can voluntarily take their firearms and have them locked up and insured by the gun shop, so that law enforcement never has to get involved and mandatory reporters don't have to get involved with the red flag legislation. It's an early intervention that we've found to work pretty well. We've also found that we had one particular person and her son travel 180 miles to this gun shop, going in to buy a gun, which they've never done before. And they started walking around, and she picked up a piece of literature from the Gun Shop Project, and it talked about when it's appropriate and inappropriate to buy a gun. And it talked about mental health symptoms and addiction. And these are, if you're experiencing these symptoms, you really should take more time before you engage in gun possession. After 30 minutes, she talked to the gun owner and said, after reading this handout, I don't think this is the right time for me to buy a gun and be a first-time gun owner. She said, I may see you back in 6 months. They turned around and drove to Denver, and it was 180 miles away. So I can't tell you how many lives we've saved, but I can tell you the process is working. So the Gun Shop the Coffee Break Project, like I said, it's a place, but it's also a lot of products that we go around and support and talk about. And it's all just kind of wrapped up into one package. Thanks, Clinton, for the opportunity to share that real quickly.
Of course. Thanks, JC. I really appreciate it. And Hannah, now you are on my screen and I see your smile, which is really comforting to me because I know it's comforting to all the people that walk through the doors at the Coffee Break Project. And just wondering if there's anything that you might want to unmute and add just about the day-to-day and how you've seen some people impacted by this work that you and JC are doing.
Thank you, Clinton. Thank you guys for having us on. It's just a neat experience to be part of this program and seeing the people come in and day out. In the beginning, nobody wants to be the first people to walk through the door or have the car parked outside. And now it doesn't matter what time of day it is, day of the week. If they see my truck or one of my trucks outside, they come in to check with me, see how they're doing, see how I'm doing, talk about their days, whatever they have on their plate, and just unload it. And then they walk out feeling better and lighter each and every day. The holiday seasons are super tough for everyone. And I have a couple of people that they've been coming in and just stopping in almost every day just to check in, unload everything that they have to get off their chests. And then they walk out and they're like, thank you, thank you for being this place that we can come to just unload everything we have, and there's no judgment and we can go on about our day. So it's neat to see the change in the dynamics and the community getting more and more involved and helping each other and trying to contribute to things that we're doing at our office and at our new building that we have here. So
I'll just end with a little bit of humor. They say, well, how do you measure your progress? And we could talk about, the more obvious things, what the researchers want to hear. But I'll say this, we've burned up so many coffee pots and coffee makers that I had to buy a commercial coffee maker this week. So we can measure it by burned up coffee makers, I guess.
yes.
Absolutely. Thanks to both of you guys for being on and sharing. It really is inspiring for us here in Colorado, and I wanted to share that project with the people on this call because I think that it's something that is just embodying this idea of collaboration, and it's embodying this idea of being with instead of just offering to. Hannah, I remember when we got together, we had a gathering in Colorado of about 20 people representing 12 different organizations, just kind of talking about the work that we were doing. And when Hannah shared, I really was able to see what it looks like when you join with the people instead of just try to force services on them, but you participate with them. And another person that I've had an opportunity to collaborate with here in Colorado that I have done quite a bit with and has been an inspiration on a number of levels, but really he's been my community that I have been able to really begin to build relationship and trust with is Chad Resnicek, who works for the Colorado Agribility Project. He was also part of that gathering that we had in Salida. And Chad spoke last week at an AgriSafe talk that some of you may have gotten to see. It was really fantastic, just about stress and well-being throughout agriculture. But Chad had a slide in that show that was talking about belonging, and like JC and Hannah were just talking about, there's really something about community that I think invites us to relax when we feel like we belong. And so Chad, I don't know if you are able now, if you're still on, to unmute and tell us a little bit about what you had learned and what you shared about tribe and belonging.
Sure. Thank you for that very warm introduction, Clinton. I appreciate it, and the feeling's certainly mutual. I want to first off say that I'm really appreciative of WRASAP's focus on community. Going back to the Pizza for Producers event, and just in general, looking at how do we build spots for connection to people, knowing that this is one of the best sources of outreach we could probably do. So I'm appreciative of that, and the Coffee Break Project, Clinton, your work on promoting community. And so this notion of tribe is our most powerful protective factor. This isn't my concept. I can't take ownership for that. This comes from a trauma researcher Dr. Bruce Perry. And so he kind of describes us as a species as slow, naked, and weak. We don't have big fangs, don't have sharp claws, we're not all that fast. So how did we get to the position of evolutionary success we had? We owe a little bit of credit to our fight or flight system. But for the most part, the most protective factor that we have is the tribe and is our small community. And so just as our ancestry and hunter-gatherer societies, for the vast majority of the time we've been on this planet, has shaped our brain, shaped that fight or flight response, it's also hardwired us as social beings. And so from our absolute dependence on others at the two extremes of our lifespan to everything in between, it's that reciprocal structure of our relationships that drive and sustain the vast majority of our behavior and well-being. And so prior to joining AgriBility, my experience has been 20 years as a clinician. So I think about all the successful cases, all the people that were able to make changes in their lives. Ultimately, it's about allowing them to sort of reconnect, find ways to regroup with other people, navigate the scary parts of relationships, because there are, for all the benefits that come with relationships, there's some really hard aspects too. But it's our tribe that's helped us to deal with war, famine, drought, floods, every imaginable catastrophe, catastrophic event known to humankind. And it's that give and take, that witnessing and sharing of birth, death, successes, and challenges that give us meaning and purpose. This is reflected in tons of research. It's also a big part in effective suicide prevention, because we know that two of the main sort of social risk factors are the sense of being alone or disconnected from others, and then also a sense of being a burden on others. So conversely, anything we do to foster connection and allow people know that we appreciate and value who they are and what they bring to our tribe, to our community, to our relationships, all those things are inherently positive and strength building. So, like I said, it's always been this way throughout our history, but managing relationships, it's a skill like anything else. And the more we can help build and shape the skills and opportunities to help practice them, the stronger our tribe grows. So as a result, and by contrast, healthy ag and rural communities support healthy ag producers, workers, and families. And so again, anything we can do to foster these events, build these connections, we're building that platform upon which everything else is going to come. And so I know from my time personally, professionally, how important those relationships can be in terms of the glue of helping people move past whatever adversity they've had and develop that resilience. And so I just applaud all the efforts, everyone in this group, all the innovative efforts and practices people are doing to foster those connections. And ultimately what I'll end with is so much of my work, regardless of population or specific clinical focus, has really been about helping people overcome trauma. And so the definition of trauma by an amazing author and researcher named Basil Van Kolk, he says traumatization occurs when our internal and external resources are insufficient to cope with the threat. And so ultimately, any efforts that we put into helping people develop their own better internal and external resources, we're helping people overcome our harm, our adversity, and again, promoting that resilience. So I want to commend everyone their efforts for that. And thank you all very much.
Thanks, Chad. I love listening to Chad talk because he has so many resources and sources that have influenced him, and I can take those, and my pizza seems to have more toppings every time that he shares one of these influencers in his life or researchers or statistics. So thanks. The place I want to go next that I think JC and Hannah and Chad really captured for me is the idea that we're trying to help promote and encourage community building and places for belonging for people working in agriculture. And for me, the thing that I've worked with my team on this past year is, if we're going to do that, we have to look and see if we're doing that ourselves. And so the last part of our time together today, I want to ask you all as a group on this call, what does it mean for you to put on your oxygen mask first? This is an analogy that I work with when I talk with farmers and ranchers, because I've found that farmers, ranchers, ag workers, they're so focused on their crops and on their livestock that they're giving, and they go to an extreme where they don't take care of themselves at all, but they're just making sure that their livestock or their crops are doing okay. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean to put on your oxygen mask first? And when we dive in, it's really just this idea of, if we're not healthy and well, we can't give fully to that which we're trying to serve. And so these last couple of slides, I just want to ask you to reflect on for yourself. If we're going to do these things, what does it look like for us to practice what we preach as far as personal well-being, mental well-being, behavioral health practices that are sustaining? What does it look like for you to connect with community? What does it look like for us as this group to connect as community and lean on each other? I said at the beginning that I was comforted by all the faces that I saw. I saw people from different areas of my life that have come together in different states. So many of them I got to meet in person at the Pizza for Producers. And now I don't just know them from computer calls, but I know them from sharing a meal with them, from sharing conversations with them. And I really love that. I had the chance to travel and present with Chad and Lori, and seeing them on the call. I spent 3 days with them. I feel so much more connected to them within my community. And if I need something, I can call on them. And that's the last thing that I want us to reflect on at the end is, what does it look like for us to ask for help? But before we get there, I want to jump in and throw a couple things out. These are some topics that we talk about with AgWell when we're meeting with producers around how they're the most valuable part of their operation. And yet they're taking care of everything else way better than they are themselves. And what are some basic needs that we all share that we need? And a couple of these people might argue those aren't needs, but I would say that they are. And so I'm throwing out food, water, air, shelter, play, alone time, and community. And I stopped at 7 because there's 7 days of the week. And so as I'm going through these, I want to throw this out early that if there's a way that you could this next week prioritize each one of these to kind of consider how you are taking care of those. I want to throw that out as a challenge, but the food is the fuel that we take in. We stress the food and fuel that we give to the livestock or the crops, but yet we put junk in our system all the time and it drains us. It doesn't give us what we need. Water, hydration is stressed. These are super simple things, but I go through the day all the time and I get to the end, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't drank a glass of water today. Air, this is probably the biggest one that has been I don't know, it's not an aha moment, but it's something that as I have learned some of these needs that I take for granted. We take 15 to 20,000 breaths a day. Most of them we don't even think about. And so as we're sitting here as this group, I don't know, I only see 6 of you on my screen, but I think there's more than that. I want to invite you to take a collective breath in and just feel the breath filling your lungs. It's so rare. I'm going to stop and do it. But just feel it and breathe out, and maybe do it again. Breathe in your nose and out your mouth. We don't stop and really feel that air that is giving us life. If we don't breathe, we can't live for more than, I don't know, some people I think can hold their breath for maybe for like 3 minutes or something. I can do it for like 30 seconds, but these other things we can do without for a while. Air we need all the time and we take it for granted every day. So that's one that I've learned to focus on. Shelter, most of us on this call have shelter that protect us from the elements outside, but I really want to frame shelter as a safe, restful place that you have in your life where you can go and really feel safe, that you can relax. And we also focus on sleep. Sleep is so important. Most of us don't get good quality sleep, and there's a number of things you can do. So I want to throw that out as something for you to consider is what does it look like to get better sleep? Play, what brings you joy? We're all so busy. We've got so much work. We've got so much things going on in our life that we don't focus on things that we enjoy. So I want to encourage you to do that. Find things that make you laugh. I don't know what I said or if I said something, but a couple of you guys were laughing as I said something, and laughter is so healing. And we forget it because we're so serious all the time. Alone time, vital for everybody. Some of us are more introverted, some of us are more extroverted. I find myself somewhere in the middle, but I know when I'm on all the time and I don't take that time for my coffee or my still time in the morning, I'm less than I want to be. And then the last thing is community. So before I go to the next slide, I kind of want to invite you to think about this. If you this next week can focus on eating a good meal on Monday, drinking plenty of water on Tuesday, putting in your calendar to breathe intentionally throughout the day on Wednesday, maybe focus on doing whatever you need to do to get a full good night's rest on Thursday, do something you love on Friday, get away. Maybe you need to move that to the weekend when you can spend more time on Saturday or Sunday, focusing maybe some alone time on Friday, and then plugging in with your community, whatever that looks like on Sunday. So I'm going to leave that up to you, but I threw 7 in there so that maybe you can prioritize that. Speaking of community and what Chad and JC and Hannah were talking about, I just wanted to throw out to you all, who are your people? We all have this need to know and be known, to see and be seen. There's somebody here in Colorado that has kind of based her work on this idea of being seen, known, and heard. And I think that's really important for all of us. And it's important that we have people that we trust, that we plug in with regularly, that we can talk with, that we can share, that we're not afraid that they're going to judge us or abandon us, but we can trust that they're there to support us. Because when we have that, we know we're not alone. So Brene Brown, who some of you know, has been a pretty big influencer on me, and she talks about this universal need of love and belonging. And she gives an example in her book, Dare to Lead, of taking a small piece of paper and writing down 3 people that are like your people and putting it, I think, in your wallet or carrying it. And so I want to invite you right now to think of somebody in your life or a couple people in your life that you really enjoy, that you trust, that you think trust you, that you can spend more time. And if you're taking time off on the holidays, maybe grab coffee with them. But I want you to consider asking them to be a partner in your well-being and their well-being. How can you support each other in maintaining this idea of, hey, are you taking care of yourself? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough rest? What are you doing to get out and play or enjoy? Because it's hard to do these things alone. But when we're in community, like we've talked about, and we have people that we can do it with, it's way easier, particularly when there's that accountability of, like JC said, I haven't seen you in a while, or you just check in at the coffee shop. Hey, you want to go for a hike? You want to go bowling, whatever it is. Because you're not alone, but a lot of times we remove ourselves, and it's really easy to think that we are and begin to feel lonely. And so I'm going to throw out this last thing. And what's your third place? This idea of third place was another influential thing for me in grad school. And a third place has been described as a place that's not your home. It's not work, but it's a place where you go to feel like that you belong and you connect to people where you don't have those other stressors coming in. When I was in Seattle, I had the opportunity to run a neighborhood pub for part of my career. And I did it with really the inspiration and motivation of that cheers moment, where they come and they sit around the bar and they don't have the stresses of work or the responsibilities of their family, but they can just be, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And you don't even have to talk. You can just be there with those people and you know them and you're known. And anyway, I want to throw that out to you. It can be a yoga class, church. It can be a restaurant, a coffee shop, whatever it is that feeds you, where you go, find a third place and plug in. The last thing that I want to talk about is this idea of asking for help. And I think that this has been the biggest challenge that people have thrown at me since I've been in this role of, how do we get farmers, ranchers, agriculture workers to seek help? And we talked at the beginning about trust. And I think that trust is a huge part of this conversation. I think that it's time relationship building so that they trust that we're there for good reason, that we are humble in approaching, and that we are really becoming a part of their community. But when I reflect this on myself, I have a really hard time asking for asking for help from anybody, because I want to be self-sufficient. I don't want somebody to see me as being less than or not able to do it. I want to be needed. And so I didn't talk to Angelina about this before we started, but Angelina is running the slideshow. And I don't know if we could break up Angelina for like 5 minutes, or 4 or 5 minutes like we did before. I really loved that moment of getting to connect with other people. And I know I've been talking for a long time, but before we wrap this up, would there be a way that we could break back into breakout groups for like 4 or 5 minutes? And we can just share why it is that we struggle asking for help. And
Yeah.
everybody can take a minute or two.
Sure, we'll do that now.
Awesome. All right, I think everybody's back, and I've got one more slide. I hope that was a good conversation. It was really good for me to continue the connection with the folks that I was with, and I would really love to be a part of all of your conversations. You guys have been so gracious with giving me the opportunity to share. Thanks, Angelina and Esmeralda and the WRASAP team. With that, I'm going to advance to this last slide if I can figure out how to do it. And that's mine and Chad and JC's contact. Feel free to reach out, find us online. And I am planning on being out at the AgriBiLity conference that's in Washington State, that I'm sure Esme and others will talk about it other months, but I hope to meet many of you in person at that point. So with that, thanks again.
Thank you, Clinton, for sharing and guiding us through all of those activities to share with each other. I can just say, even from me being in that last group, I was like, I need more time to keep talking about this. So it's really good to have those moments, and we look forward to applying a little bit more of that networking. Some things that I did want to mention off of your presentation is that, even though WRASAP is a rather young program, we have been able to do a lot of connections across the country and really learn from each other and learn how passionate a lot of us are about this. The work that we're doing, and how that can really help us connect with the farmers, connect with the farm workers. And it was really great for me to hear about the coffee break, because I remember reading about it, we saw about it, I read about it, but hearing from you guys how it's actually working, it's an entirely different experience. So thank you for bringing on JC and Hannah. And with that, we're going to move on to our announcements. So first off, we're going to invite Lori Mercer and Rachel Van Boven to share with us some announcements that they have from Farm Aid.
All right, I know we've got a larger cadre here than we often do, so some folks are familiar with this information, but Rachel and I are Farm Aid hotline operators. We're both working out of the Skagit Extension office, and the team, especially our managers, have been working very hard to bring Spanish-speaking hotline services forward, and that did happen recently. So we now have a Spanish hotline operator. Her name is Emily Gonzalez Ibarra, and she's contracted to work with us through the Migrant Clinicians Network, where she works. So she's working out of Austin, Texas. And she is available on the hotline from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Mondays through Fridays. She has received a good deal of mental health first aid training and is continuing on that track. And she also just went to her first conference, the Latino Farmers Conference in Escondido in November, where she got to meet Esme. So that was good that she started to be able to connect with some folks on the WRASAP side. But just a real big plea now that since we have this service, we're really trying to bolster our clearinghouse with Spanish materials. So if you're familiar with any kind of either organization or media, if that's a YouTube video, a PDF, what have you in Spanish that you think would be helpful for our country's farmers and farm workers, we would love for you to pass that on. And I will put, well, Rachel and I'll put my email in the chat, and Rachel, you can pop yours in. I don't know, is there anything else, Rachel, you want to add?
No, I think you covered it. Thanks, Lori.
Okay.
Lori, quick questions. The hours that you mentioned, are those Pacific Standard Time?
I believe they're Central Time.
Okay.
I'm hoping Rachel might correct me on that too, but I think it's based on her timeline, isn't it?
It's East Coast.
Oh, it's East Coast. Okay,
because she's in Texas, and so she's working 9 to 5 in Texas.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you
And what
both.
happens is if someone calls, they'll be directed to press a number if they want English, another number if they want Spanish, and then it just routes off to Elizabeth if that's the way that they go.
Got it. Well, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Rachel, for letting us know that that Farm Aid now has a Spanish-speaking operator. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, up next, another announcement. We have Chad Resnichek from Colorado Agribility, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about land logic.
Esme, can I trouble you to allow me to screen share? I'll throw up the slide real quick.
Hold on.
If you can't, that's okay too. I'll just wing it.
You should be able to now.
Okay. So thanks again for everyone's time. Just wanted to give you all a little bit of notice about land logic clinical practice training that's coming up. And some of you have heard me talk about this perhaps, but we're finally in a place now where we're getting ready on the cusp of being able to roll it out. So before I get into some of the details, what this is, it's first off supported by the WRASAP Small Grants Program and in partnership with WRASAP. And the target audience will be for healthcare professionals and behavioral health professionals that provide some type of counseling services to farming communities. This can even include faith leaders that provide support through spiritual counseling services. It really is kind of clinical in nature. The idea is to provide a problem-solving clinical framework for being able to work with those involved in agriculture in a way that's really culturally responsive, makes sense, down to earth, and imbues value back into their day-to-day experience. And a lot of it is cognitive behavioral therapy techniques and action commitment therapy techniques that I've used in a lot of my practice over the years, but has been adapted to this population. And one of the thing that really drew me to it is utilizing the connection to the land, that agrarian imperative that's so present in our agricultural population, and being able to encapsulate that through the aerial photo or like a Google image of someone's operation. But as a clinician, to get that kind of window and insight into someone's day-to-day operation, what parts of their land, of their day-to-day work are most stressful? Where do they get the sense of meaning? And being able to tailor interventions, clinical homework, things of that nature back to their own environment. It's kind of really exciting for me as a clinician to be able to incorporate all those elements in there. So we have this now into a product that we would like to be able to offer to, again, that particular group of healthcare providers doing some behavioral health work. And through the small grants program, we're able to provide for providers and clinicians in our Western region to be able to attend this at no charge. So the registration for the session will be capped at 35 participants, so we have time for interaction. The dates of the first training will be set for February 21st and then February 28th. So basically, this will be a 1.5 hour presentation on each of those days. So 3 hours total to get through that training session. The link for registration should be available by the end of next week. And I've got a couple other details, but I can quit sharing at that point.
There was a question, Chad, if this is an online training.
Yes, it will be an online training, and we're working to get continuing education credits for a number of professional organizations and professional groups through that. So AgriSafe will be sending out a promotion targeting the Western region states. Residents that reside or currently practice via telecounseling to the Western region states will have their seat supported by the grant, and learners will have to attend both sessions to actually complete the training.
Okay, so Natalie posted on the chat that it will be a live online training.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chad. That sounds like an exciting training opportunity.
And thanks for allowing us a little bit of time to promote that. And as we get closer, I'll send information out to all of you as well, too, if you have anyone in mind or think that they could benefit from it. I think it's a great opportunity to give people some real tangible clinical skills. It's really designed for kind of 5 to 10 sessions to be as short-term solution focused as possible, which kind of matches up with most of the voucher programs across the country. So we're excited to do it. Really appreciate AgriSafe's support with it and WRASAP's backing as well. So appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Oh, just a quick question. I know that right now it's like for licensed professionals. Like in the future, do you guys plan on expanding this training, say, to professionals that are also like kind of frontline, like community health workers?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I think that there would be elements that we could probably adapt to make it a little bit more user friendly there as well. So, but I think this is a great start, and we'll be interested to see what the feedback is and how we kind of get to shape what we're doing based on what's a benefit and value to our communities.
Thank you so much, Chad. We look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thank you, Esme. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and last announcement that I have on this list is I just wanted to remind everybody that the National Agribility Training Workshop is coming up. It will happen in March 20 to 24th. It will take place in Spokane, Washington. I have popped the link in the chat to where you can get more information on where that will happen. As Clinton mentioned at the beginning of today's session, we've gotten to meet a lot of us in person, not just in this online platforms, but it has been at workshops like that in person where we have been able to connect with each other and really talk about the work that we're doing and take this online platform to an in-person platform. You can also apply for a small grant to attend the workshop if you do not have funding for traveling. We can do that through the small grants program under the professional development section. We've done a lot of commenting today, but one last moment announcement is that we have some upcoming Farmsters related events. Our partners at Oregon State are continuing to do question, persuade, refer trainings online. The dates that we have coming up are January 25th, March 16th, and May 10th for English, and the Spanish sessions will take place on January 26th, March 16th, and June 8th. The information for this you can find it on farmstress.us under the events webpage and under the events tab. And lastly, again, to remind everybody that we have small grants funding opportunities coming up. The next deadline to submit those is December 31st, and we will be reviewing in the middle of January. So that's the next deadline that we have coming up. Again, we have applications under outreach, professional development, and translation. And again, to remind everybody to ask your colleagues to join the network, to join these meetings, to get to know what each of us are doing and really get together to strengthen our programs and address farm stress for farmers, farm workers, and their families. You can also sign up for our newsletter on the webpage. If you go to farmstress.us, at the bottom, you'll see this tab which says get the latest news. You can sign up for the WRASAP newsletter on there. And thank you. Thank you so much to each of you that have spent some time with us to hear what Clinton had to present with us. Thank you so much to Hannah and JC and Chad for also presenting. And also Angelina, thank you so much for managing the connectivity and getting us all into the rooms and getting us all into the same room. Thank you all. We look forward to seeing you on the other one and the next one, and we'll send out an information on when for dates and the theme for that one. Thank you.